No one today. That's highly unusual. Oh, one. Hi. Welcome. We're really going to embarrass you because you're the only one we get to embarrass today. So sorry. Welcome to Althea. This is just a little token of our appreciation for you checking us out. And you're actually at a great day. Well, it's always a great day here at Althea, right? Am I right? That's right. But today we are restarting fanfare, drum roll, lunch. And dear Carrie is our chef for today, and everything is gluten-free and organic. You know, sorry, no sugar donuts. I'm sorry, I tried. But anyway, that's wonderful. So please let us know if you'd like to stay for lunch, and we'll make sure that we get you a complimentary lunch. Was there somebody else new that was here? No, just one. No, another one? Okay. All right. So we will immediately go into our opening prayer. And so traditionally, this is the time when we just get quiet and we just embrace the day, embrace the moment, and really just focus on the breath. Because it comes so naturally to us the other 8,000 hours of the year, but when we just stop and focus on inhaling and exhaling, each at our own unique pace, we just focus. And it is in this quiet and this silence that we become so keenly aware of our surroundings. We hear the air conditioner, we might hear traffic, we hear a cough, a sneeze. We just hear so much more keenly. And then we can focus on oneness. We can focus on that energy within each and every one of us that breathes us, that animates us, because we are all here to express our oneness and know in our heart of hearts, when we stop and be quiet, that there is no separation. There is no separation. No matter what we think, no matter how we feel, no matter how we judge, when we get quiet, oneness is all. And that means that we are truly united to each and every other person on this planet. Each and every other person we are linked to. That's a true internet. That's true connection. And so on this day, we come here to this glorious center, Althea, to just rejuvenate ourselves, to find something that is not screaming at us like out in the world. We come to find that reconnection to each other and to our souls. We come to replenish that energy, and we take it with us, whatever we leave with today, to face the new day, the new week. And no matter what has transpired, everything is renewed. And when we talk about homes today, for we talk about, during our panel, about homelessness, and when we, in this moment, we think of what is a home like. And so I know that each of us in our own ways blesses our homes, the homes of our family and friends and relatives, because it is so much more than just four walls. It is so much more. And so we just go to that quiet place for about 30 seconds to just go a little bit deeper in the quiet of the moment. When we come back to this sanctuary here, let us focus now on what we're grateful for, so that we do not take advantage of our homes, take advantage of them, of our homes, and what goes into making them a home. Take them for granted is what I meant. And for all of the blessings that our homes represent, and the compassion for those who may not have one or who are seeking them. And our hearts grow with empathy and compassion and kindness and love, for that is our true nature. And so with a grateful heart, we simply know in our heart of hearts that this sacred place here is such a blessing to us and to our community. And it is whatever we pray for that we simply let go into that one mind, for all the answers are already there. And we know that every answer manifests in perfect divine order, in perfect divine timing, and always, always, always with great, great love. And so it is. Amen, amen. I already have a mic. Force of habit. So we're going to move into our first beautiful song by Daryl Johnson. And is anyone accompanying you? I can't remember. Are you being accompanied, or is this a solo?
Hello. Yeah, I'm going to be joined by a couple of backup singers. This is Catherine Keys and Mimi Berger, so they're going to join me on this. So. She calls out to the man on the street, "Sir, can you help me? It's cold and I've nowhere to sleep. Is there somewhere you can tell me?" He walks on, doesn't look back. He pretends he can't hear her, starts to whistle as he crosses the street. Seems embarrassed to be there. Oh, think twice, 'cause it's another day for you and me in paradise. Oh, think twice, 'cause it's another day for you and me in paradise. Just think about it. She calls out to the man on the street. He can see that's been crying. She's got blisters on the soles of her feet. She can't walk, but she's trying. Oh, think twice, 'cause it's another day for you and me in paradise. Oh, think twice, 'cause just another day for you, you and me in paradise. Just think about it. Think about it. Oh Lord, is there nothing more anybody can do? Oh Lord, there must be something you can say. She calls out from the lines on her face. You can see that she's been there. Probably been moved on from every place, 'cause she didn't fit in there. Oh, think twice, 'cause it's another day for you and me in paradise. Oh, think twice, it's just another day for you, you and me in paradise. Think about it. Just think about it. It's just another day for you and me in paradise. It's just another day for you and me in paradise. It's just another day for you and me in paradise. Just think about it.
Day for you and me.
Just think
in
about
paradise.
it. Think about it.
Okay. So our service today is going to be taken up with a panel, and I would like to invite those 4 participants up here at this time. So we have Barbara Boucher, we have Dick Peterson, we have Matthew Hazelwood, and we have Catherine Keys. So when we think about, this issue, and in fact there was a major article in last week's newspaper, there were letters to the editor today, and homelessness is just all over the place as an issue, what to do about it, what causes it, etc. And so this panel is meant to talk to 2 people who have journeyed through homelessness and 2 people who have assisted those people currently, and what their experiences have been. So I'm just going to be asking the panel some questions, and then I'd like to, open it up for questions after the panel completes itself. We could probably spend a half a day on this, so we will cover as much as we can. To just give you a little background, Barbara Boucher has been a member here with Althea for quite a few years. Is this one working? Can you turn on the podium? Got it. Okay. Okay. All right. Barbara Boucher has been a member of Althea for a few years. And she worked very closely with the Women's Homeless Initiative. Before COVID, Althea sponsored, I believe, was it once or twice a month? Twice a month, where women would come here, spend the night. They were provided a great supper. It was a safe place for them. And then they were given a lunch, a bagged lunch for the next day. And it was something that Althea was really proud of. Currently, they are now she is with a group of volunteers working on creating and providing lunch bags for the homeless day shelters in the city. Dick Peterson and his wife Lee have been members here for quite a few years. He was an ordained Methodist minister. He is no longer. There's a long story in that one. He graduated from the Divinity School of the University of Chicago and Ohio Wesleyan. And then we have Catherine Keys. She's a Colorado native, go Natives, and has been coming to the Althea Center since the late 70s. Wow. Back and forth, sure, but that's quite an experience here. You've seen a lot of changes, right? She has taught in bilingual classrooms within the Denver Public School System and then worked with developmentally different communities and the elderly. And she is currently retired and volunteers with Same Cafe and Earthlinks. Is that SAME or SAME? Just So All May Eat. Race and Vine on Colfax. So All May Eat. Great. Matthew Hazelwood is also a native Coloradan. Oh my gosh, these natives. Terrific. He's had quite a challenging life in his young years. He grew up with addictive, abusive parents, had to meet the challenges of foster care, which engendered his homelessness. But aside from those challenges, he is a computer geek. So there is more to a person's life than the experiences of homelessness. He has lots of hobbies. He hopes to attend DU Coding Boot Camp. He is a young disabled entrepreneur. He's a scholar, and he's a video gamer. So Matthew Hazelwood, sorry. So that's our panel for today. So I'm going to just start off asking Barbara, how did you get started with women? How did you get started with the Women's Homeless Initiative?
Test.
It's not.
Asking us.
There we go.
Okay. All right. We're approached by the. All right. Start over. We had a problem around the building with the homelessness spending the night in the Portico area, and we actually had two groups. One, we called them the A group and the B group. The A group were very friendly, very nice, and the B group were not so friendly and not very nice. So anyway, as a result of that, with that issue, you know, I got involved with that, or how we could help solve that. But as a result of that, Althea was approached by the Capitol Hill United Ministry, which is also called CHUM, and they were asking if we would participate as a site to house women overnight. And in this case, it would be about 20 to 25 women. So we agreed that we would participate, and we became the 14th site for the different churches and locations in the Capitol Hill area and also east of Colorado Boulevard. Scott Robbins and I started the program, so we decided on having 22 women per night that we would. So we did it for a year and a half. We started in July of 2018, and then we had to, of course, close our doors when the pandemic hit. So that's basically how it does take about 20 volunteers a night to run the program. So you can see with people's schedules and whatever, sometimes it's tough to get it together, but people have been very helpful, very willing, and it's because of that that I think we could say, been a success. The latest I've heard is the program is probably going to open up again in the fall.
Terrific. All right. Thank you. So, Catherine, are there different types of homelessness? Could you address that? Because that seems to be a valuable question to discern.
I think there are people that, for whatever reason, will be lifelong homeless people, and I sort of think that some people prefer it because it's known, and like prison and the high recidivism rate for some, it's because it's what's known, and it's less scary, actually. I didn't ever really consider myself homeless. I had a car, and I had a degree. There was some of that white privilege that I felt, and if just people look around everywhere, that's homelessness. And some people never got into systems like with CHUM or Women's Homeless Initiative. And some people were okay about some of the other sheltering systems. There was one I called the warehouse, and there were 100 women in there and no windows, and every form of, I'd say, mental illness, and it was awful. It was everything that a person would think of it might be, and nothing that you would want a loved one to experience.
How did you survive those situations like that?
I pretty much kept my head down and shut down everything. You didn't want to smell it or see it or hear it. And my whole reason for being there was that my mom was dying, and it took 4 years, and I needed to be with her. So I moved up from Castle Rock back to Denver. And that way I was able to be with her every day. And so I knew it wasn't forever. I think it was because I knew that it was a moment that I was able to just keep my head down and go through it.
Thank you. Dick, how did you get involved in being a panelist here today? What led you here?
I think you invited me.
Oh, you
Short
know,
of that, I don't know.
finger of blame.
I might just introduce our relationship to Matthew, who's sitting here. And yes, some of you know where REI is downtown. It's a nice place and go have coffee, sit outside. And Lee and I had done that. She drinks tea, I drink coffee. But you're outside. They have to be now, or until maybe recently. And we noticed this young man sitting. I think we noticed Matthew. I think we noticed you twice there. And the second time, you had a wagon that he carried his stuff in, a wagon piled up with stuff. And so I think we talked to him the first time just down there. And then the second time, I think, was when we asked you to come home with us, where I lost your wagon off the back of the truck. But that's another story. But from this point on, I think it's really Matthew's got the story to tell. He lived with us since January. Mostly ups, now and then some downs, but mostly ups. And he's hoping that he can get money to go into this training program where he can get a job in computers. He is knowledgeable in computers, loves computers, and wants to go on professionally in the computer world. And so I just pass that along as you hear from Matthew. Is that enough? Yeah.
So Matthew, tell us how homelessness became a way of your life.
Well, going back to it, I think there's two differences. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, better.
There's two differences. I've been homeless and houseless. I've been houseless predominantly since I got out of foster care a week before my 18th birthday. But I've technically been homeless my entire life, as in I've never really had a safe little place to be able to call home, to have that little sanctity. And that led to severe issues that I had to encounter regarding my houselessness. Where it just not being able to get a job with having certain disabilities and not being able to afford the medical care that is needed, and just finding roadblocks and stuff to have to try and overcome. And it has led me across 6 different states, several different towns and counties across those states in the search to achieve my one goal, 3 little goals actually, that I've always ever had since I was a kid. I wanted to have my own place, and I wanted to be the one that was different from my entire family, succeeding where everyone else in my family had failed, and being a different, better person that I wanted to see in the world. Kind of like, Gandhi was a real inspiration for me to want to be a different and better person to try and help others more so than I did myself. And that also contributed to a persistency of my homeless state and my houseless state, due to the fact that when I did have some stuff to be able to where I could afford in one way or fashion all of my necessities, if I saw somebody else that needed help too, I would share. And in return, that would end up hurting me in the end, because eventually resources do run out.
And what do you think are some misconceptions about homelessness that the general public has?
One of my biggest issues that I dealt with was it's really hard to ask for help as it is. And then when you do ask for help, a lot of the time you hear people just say common phrases like, well, just get a job, don't be lazy. Or they resort to all homeless or drug addicts. So if you just lay off the drugs and leave the gangs alone, you'll be fine. And I was actually quite the opposite in that, where I shied away from those because that's a more dangerous place to be. You kind of have to keep your head down to survive when you're homeless in the streets, especially if you're in a community that you're not from, or you're of a complexion that is not similar in nature of those around you. Southern California was a place I was homeless for 7 years. So you had to be careful what you wore, where you were, who you were seen with, what you were seen doing, and everything. And that was a big block that I had. And if you didn't have similarities with people in the community, or they saw that your case was a little more complex than just simply, you know, oh, a sandwich is going to go ahead and solve all your problems for the rest of your life, then oftentimes you were passed on to the next community. California and other states have programs set up where if you need more help than they're willing to give, then they can send you on a bus to another state so that they can relocate the problem to someone else who may or may not have the resources available. And so as a result of not having connections with the community, I couldn't get the assistance I needed. So I came back to Colorado, where I'm from, went back to my hometown, which is a very small town in southeastern Colorado in the Arkansas Valley that is smaller than the 16th Street Mall from Civic Center to Union Station. As a result, there's no resources. So where did they send you? Denver. So here I am.
Which leads to my next question to Dick. So Matthew found himself in Denver and at REI, and you and Lee were at REI. So why did you invite him to your home?
So asking my wife, she was actually
Give him.
she was actually more influential than I. She saw him, and she said, we had a spare bedroom, and I think it's what I'm looking at her now. And she just said, let's ask if he wants to come home with us. And so after we picked him up, we've got a couple other requests for people down there. You had a couple other friends down there that said, can you find a family to take us in? Which we didn't, but that just was kind of the beginning of the story. The little fun part of it was that he had a wagon, like a kid's wagons, that all his stuff was in, so he took a wagon around. We had borrowed my daughter's truck, but I didn't know how to put the tailgate up. And as we come up of the hill on, I don't know, 16th or 15th, whatever it was, it rolled out down on the street. Fortunately, it was evening, about 9 or 10 o'clock at night, and it had just stopped in the middle of the street. I could drive around the corner, and with Matthew's help, we could pick it up, and I did finally learn how to put up the tailgate so it wouldn't go out again. I had convinced him it wouldn't go out, and it did. So anyway, that's a very meaningless story.
So really, it's Lee who is the good person.
That's right. That's it.
We just want to clarify that for everyone, okay? So Catherine, does anyone choose to be homeless? That seems to be such a common question and judgment.
I can't really say. I don't know. I mean, it was sort of the last resort for me. I had kind of been on air mattresses in friends and families, off and on.
So it's certainly not a choice that you made. It was just necessity?
I think people just sort of find themselves there. Mm-hmm. It might not be a conscious choice at all. And in my case, it was sort of a backwards choice, I guess. Like I said, the last resort.
What helped you the most when you found yourself in this situation?
Althea helped. The prayer partners helped. I also was connected to Unity, and I would volunteer to do their week-long homeless things. Barbara's was every 2 weeks. Unity would do, I think, 1 week a quarter or something like that. And so I would have a place to stay for a week, and I was helping out as well. But there was a lot of kindness, and only a few people knew. My best friend who's here, and the prayer partners knew, and the women's group knew. And So I sort of felt I was being carried a little bit when it would get kind of hard. And I think you sort of have to be your own home. You have to carry that with you. And there were desperate moments, for sure. Just please, God, get me out of this. But in general, just being there for my mom was what sustained me. And that was a gift and a blessing to both of us. And I don't think about the 4 years much, and I concentrate on the fact that I was able to love my mom like she loved all of us. And
Was she in a home or?
she was in independent living and then assisted living and then like a group home. And I don't recommend any of that stuff. It's a misnomer, the assisted part. And so I felt I was with her in part for protection, giving her the wrong meds, wrong people's meds, blah, blah, blah. And, and then she had lost her sight, and she was sort of losing her cognitive strength and would look at me sometimes and just say, "Who are you?" And I would just get right up close to her and snuggle in and say, and whisper, "I'm your favorite." And we'd giggle, and then she'd be back for a little while. Yeah.
Terrific, terrific.
So the prayers of everybody, I would say.
Good, good. Barbara, if you could wave a magic wand, what do you think is a solution for homelessness? I know that's a big question, but do you see, I mean, you're so involved in it, or have been, well, still are, but what do you see out there that you think could be corrected easily, or?
I don't
Or
know
not.
if I can really answer that question for you. It's such a huge
Oh, come on,
issue.
Barbara, I mean,
It's
geez. Why do you
but-
think I asked you here? I mean.
But there's no question that for homelessness, it's the price of housing. So now, can you just drop the price of housing? And probably not. You know, I mean, we all know it's been escalating. You can't help but listen to the news or read the paper, and it says, you know, the price of a house has gone up 20, ownership and rentals have gone up more than 6% this year. We also have had people who were living on their Social Security check in buildings, and they were asked to leave because the landlord wanted to, you know, put some money in the building and rent it for, you know, the going rate. Now, to give credit to the city, they have, in their own way, have been trying to help out. One of the things is they rented a motel out on West Colfax that houses, again, I think it's about 80 or 90 women. I'm just going to divert a little bit. You know, we all hear statistics, and certainly don't hold me to this, but I just in the last day or so said there's about 2,200 people a night homeless. Now, the definition of homeless is, by the federal government, is if you don't have an address. So I think of these people driving around in their 200,000 RVs, you know. I don't consider them homeless. But it is, that's sort of a technical way of defining whether somebody has a place to live or not. But you're always going to have 20% of the homeless who are, you can just call them street people, for lack of the sort of the image that you have. But you know, you think there's a lot of reasons why those people are not in in a job, not in a house. Half of the homeless, about 50%, work. So that goes back to the housing issue. You know, if you're working, you know that $15 an hour now has become more the norm for a minimum wage. But if you make $15 an hour and you're a single parent, you know, that doesn't pay the rent bill. And also what we're coming up against just the end of this month is the prohibition through the pandemic, which is really going to, I think, really impact the homeless issue, and unfortunately, I think it's going to add to it because...
Can you explain that?
What's that?
Can you explain that prohibition?
Well,
Is it
if you,
prohibiting evictions,
if you
right?
were unable
That's
to pay
ending.
your rent, you couldn't be, the federal government says you can't be evicted. Now, that was the date was June 30th, and it's been extended now to July 31. So we're bumping up against it. These are people that, you know, a lot of women had to come out of the workforce because the children were at home. So I think you're going, in my opinion, I think that's going to even add to it because the evictions are going to start, or foreclosures are going to start. It's a huge problem, but one of the things is I keep just saying to myself, just do your bit. What is the small way? If you make 20 lunch bags for people who are at homeless shelters, that's a big contribution. So I think we kind of we can't really focus on the enormity of the problem. I think we can just ask ourselves, you know, what is it that we could do personally that maybe helps the situation?
Thank you. So Matthew, what does your future look like?
Right now, I'm hoping to go to the coding boot camp here at the University of Denver, which starts next Monday, which is a 3-month-long course and has some career assistance at the end where they help you try and secure some sort of a job. But it would also help me be able to generate income in other multiple different ways. I did start my own business in 2016 with some money that I had been getting from donating plasma, which is how I predominantly survived in Southern California with whatever food I could get. And my whole goal with it was to use what I do know and the connections I was making in the community with people with similar interests and help them generate income, and by helping others eventually be able to succeed in my own life, to be able to afford something more than just a tent. And
So if I could jump in, so that kind of leads to this question. What do you feel like you need to have a more secure future?
For a more secure future, I definitely need a stable housing with the ability to afford the simple things in life, food and clothing and medical expenses, and just some time to essentially get the certificate so I can move on with life and have a source of income, which is the one thing that's been missing just as much as having a place to call home. I've been missing both of that, and I can never seem to hold both in my hand at the same time. So to have some sort of a way to hold a place to call home and the ability to do what I know I can do and what I've been able to do in a capacity where it can sustain myself just as much as helping others to do so.
Yeah. Dick? And then
I want to add a little more concrete to him. Matthew's been promised $12,000, $6,000 from one of the programs of the city for his boot camp that he's already signed up to go to. He's got the promise of $6,000 from some friends in wherever you lived, Los Angeles. But he's waiting for money, $6,000 to technically come from the city of Denver, I guess. and it's always being promised and it doesn't seem to come. So it's kind of a sticking point right now. Lee and I worked on some of it. We've talked to the city about it. The Second Chance, which is down on Delaware, right near the city and county building. But that's a very precise kind of thing that he is kind of waiting for now, which kind of feels like it would jumpstart him on into the future. I just wanted to add that piece.
Would you mind just holding that question? So, Catherine, what surprised you the most when you found yourself in those predicaments, and what inspired you to, I don't know, keep going?
Once I started hearing about options to the warehouse, it was CHUM. That was the first one. But I realized that even if people were wanting to be friendlier, if they told me about this, for example, then the chance of them getting a place that night was, yeah. So there were only 22 places, and you'd call every morning at a certain time and call back at a certain time and show up at a certain time and follow the rules of all these different things. But to share was going to hurt yourself, sort of. Yeah, that was hard.
That was hard.
And there was a sign, once I learned about the gathering place over here on High, I saw a sign that said, just remember, homelessness may not be the worst thing that these women have experienced. And I just thought, what? And then yeah, it's true. And one of the women that I interviewed for Earthlings was small and sort of invisible. But she told me that a man that she had met in middle school, that she eventually married, became abusive, and he put her in the hospital, and she was smashed. All these bones. What is that, ocular? The bone.
Mm-hmm.
And she said that when she went back home, she told him that he needed to leave, and he started back toward her, and she just looked at him and said, "What are you going to do? Hit me?" And she said, "I'm not afraid of you." And yeah, she's just a little woman named Linda who took a stand. And so there's some miracles, stories too along the way, abuse and all of that.
Yeah.
And what inspired me was knowing the whole thing was my mom.
Great. We're going to wrap up. I'm going to ask each of them just if there's any last comments that they'd like to make or observations, and then we've got a mic here and we'll open it up to the congregation here. So, Barbara, what's your parting thought or statement?
Well, I just, the first time I met Catherine was actually on one of our overnights here. I can remember that. So here we are, we've come a long way. You know, the one thing about the WHI program is, since it focuses on women, that it really has diminished abuse for those people. As Catherine was mentioning, the situation that person was in. And we've actually gotten compliments from the city, because that's a serious problem when people, women think that, well, maybe I need to hook up with somebody to get protection. So again, it's, you know, every little bit counts on that. We could be here till 24 hours from now talking about this situation.
Thank you. Matthew, what are your parting thoughts?
I believe that this entire issue, as you said, is very complex, but it does remind me of a story where in the Old Testament they were having to rebuild the city. And the way they rebuilt the city in record time was everyone just focusing on the area in front of their houses. And I think that's kind of the same way we're going to have to tackle this is, you know, everyone doing their part from both sides of the fence, just coming up to their section of the fence and contributing whatever they have to the situation so that you can't look at it being greener on one side of the fence. It's just going to be green on both sides because everyone did their part.
Nothing particular to add to that. It's a big problem. There's no serious about it, and we need to move on it and do something. So with that, I'll pass it on.
I'll just say that of the, how many, 20 places? Well, I didn't go to all of them, but of all the chum locations, the different churches, everybody on the bus would sigh when they knew that we were coming to Althea. And I think it's a holy, sacred place, and people behaved when they were here. And I swear to you, they did not elsewhere. But, but part of it was Barbara didn't do a big spiel and, you know, threaten them and, you know, oh gosh. And she said, no, I'm not going to do that. And people felt free. They felt like they could relax, and I think just the whole atmosphere, and Barbara with bringing us tubs of Epsom salts to soak our feet, you know, so yeah.
All right, so we'll open it up to the congregation here. Questions?
My question is, particularly with Barbara, could you tell us how many, I know you said there are quite a few volunteer opportunities with that. Could you talk a little bit about it for the women here?
I'm sorry.
You said
I have a hearing issue.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Opportunities for what again?
The volunteers for your program. You said each night it takes about 20.
Probably we'll handle that separately as we go forward to get, you know, because to get started, to reopen, excuse me, in some ways is starting all over. So I'd like to address that later on, maybe during the service, yeah, right. But there will be lots of opportunities, trust me.
I have, no, I'm sorry to hog this. So I wanted to know, especially for those of you who've been on the streets, what do you suggest about when people are panhandling? For those of us that are, should we give, should we not give? It's always kind of a struggle.
For me, I had an issue panhandling myself as an individual. However,
Hold your mic up.
whenever I did get to the point where I had to, I didn't really want money. I just wanted something to eat, you know. And so with the money, I mean, one part of dealing with it, one reason why it's so hard is you're putting yourself out there, you're not keeping your head down, so you're going to get a whole lot more negative comments mostly about how you're just lazy and just going to spend it on drugs, you know, which was really hard because some of us just wanted a sandwich. Or like for myself, when I was in Southern California, I was, the reason that song earlier spoke so much to me was I got one of my nicknames Caveman because I had no shoes. And so I was walking around Southern California, needle-infested streets with bare feet. And so I would have to get to the point where I'd have to panhandle for some money to try and get protection on my feet. And that would open you up to a lot of negative comments. So one thing I think would make it better, especially for the individuals who are just hanging around a food area and everything, is maybe some kind words. to try and balance out all of the negative that we do get 24/7, because we get it at night too. There's no rest for the homeless that are actually putting their head on pavement, because if you're not dealing with other homeless, you're dealing with security and police telling you you're not allowed and how useless you are. So kind words, I would say, is a very big motivating factor that would help inspire the individual to move on their day.
Matthew, I also want to ask, on the homeless people on the street that are hand paneling, is drugs a big issue with them? In other words, are you giving money to supply their drug use from your point of view?
I have met quite a few different individuals, and they are as vast and distinguished as our very own congregation. You have individuals who do spend it on drugs. I'm not going to deny that. There are people that do, but a lot of people are actually just needing necessities. And if giving money seems to be a potential problematic issue for the individual that you are trying to help, then it might be then therefore more beneficial to provide the necessities themselves instead of the money, so that there's not the temptation or the doubt. However, I would say that there are a lot, especially women and definitely men who can't get jobs, who need the money, and a lot of the times they've got someone else that they're trying to help instead of themselves anyway, if they're getting to the point of having to panhandle, at least for the soft-spoken homeless people, or as was spoken earlier, your group A homeless.
Anyone else?
Well, I'm open to somebody else, but is there an organization you could suggest that we could, or organizations that we could give money to, which would be then filtered back into people who aren't, for example, using drugs or something? I mean, is there a source that you have or Catherine had for some financial support at all?
I do know of one program called Catholic Charities that I have encountered in the past who have helped others. I have never received assistance from them myself, so I don't know how exactly they help, but I do know they accept donations and do actively help in the community, as well as the Colorado Coalition for the Homeless. However, getting a hold of these entities is even harder now due to the pandemic than it was before.
Catherine, do you have any sources?
The Gathering Place, Earthlinks, and Same Cafe.
I also want to mention that with reopening the WHI program, that CHUM is trying to raise money so we could pay people to do the overnights. That seems to be a hard one sometimes to fill with volunteers. So anyway, I'm just mentioning that that's another organization that, you know, any financial assistance is most welcome.
Okay. I just wanted to make a comment more than a question, and that is that I used to be part of a Unity Church in Park Hill, and we formed a group of people that would meet, and we would put together, we'd go to the dollar store and we'd get supplies, little things that people on the street would appreciate, whether it's a bar of soap, whether it's, you know, just a toothbrush, a bottle of water, and we'd put together just these packets of things to hand out. Sometimes it'd also have crackers and cheese, you know, those cheese crackers or something like that. And we'd make them up, and we did this on a volunteer basis. And then, you know, to prevent giving money, we'd hand those out to people. And you'd be surprised I would do it a lot, and you'd be surprised how you'd put a smile on somebody's face. Just knowing they have a bottle of water, just knowing they have uh, hand sanitizers or various things that we would add to the bags. And I think it's a great idea.
That is great. We'll take two more questions, and then we'll wrap up.
I just wanted to say that the kids have not been mentioned here. Like Matthew was in foster care, and when he turned 18, that's it, goodbye. And, you know, I have grandchildren this age, and I am a little emotional about it because I don't know what we're doing to our kids. And I don't know the programs that are out there for them, but I do think that that policy is not good. And maybe politically it has a bearing on things.
Yeah, it's like there's no program for getting out of foster care.
I did have one thing to add to your question about if there's anywhere to donate to. I have a personal connection with a food stamp worker in San Bernardino, California, who grew to wanting to help the homeless so much she started her own nonprofit organization called Bridges Out of Poverty. And she has been very active in Southern California. And even though that's not local, I'm hoping that we can try and bridge from California across. And as a result, when I am doing this boot camp next week and I'm brushing up on the technologies that I don't know and the ones that I do know, she wants me to be able to help her work on her website. And so that is one option of someone or a program. But at the same time, the things that she does and the stuff on the website itself kind of speaks to how each of us as an individual in the community can end up helping people of all levels of poverty, especially those who are homeless on the streets.
There are a couple other places where people might contribute. Most of you know, but maybe not everyone, that on the second floor of this building we have the St. Francis Center Career Development Center, and Rick, who's become a fairly regular accompanist for our music program, is a case manager there, so talk to him about that. The other is Urban Peak. Lee, I'm glad you raised the issue of kids. Urban Peak is the primary place to refer kids who are homeless. They have so many amazing programs to help kids get their GED, get off the streets, etc. And a lot of people don't know, national statistics are that 40% of homeless people are LGBTQ youth who've either run away from home because it's so horrible there or actually been kicked or literally thrown out of the house. So Urban Peak and St. Francis Center are excellent resources to support.
All right. I feel like Phil Donahue here. I don't know, is that good or bad? Well, I know just from my own personal observation, I've been coming to Althea for about, it's pushing 5 years, and I have a very direct route, Monaco to 13th and down, go west. And on those corners at 13th and Monaco, I'm not kidding, for probably 2 years, there was a young man, and we just, he was there every Sunday, and I would give him $1, and, he would smile and thank me, and socks, I heard, were a big thing, so a couple years I did socks, when the weather was cold. And then COVID hit, and all these people disappeared. I have not seen him since. And so how did COVID affect this? Do you have any thoughts? It's just affected the entire world, right? Well, thank you so much to our panel. This has been quite enlightening. Thank you very much. And we're going to move into our reading with Barbara. And then, so thank you very much, Barbara, Catherine, Dick, Matthew. You can leave. Go. Get out of here. What the heck? Thank you so much. I did look up some stats. On any given night in the United States, there are about 535,000 homeless people in the United States, which is certainly a very sobering statistic. All right. Barbara? Where's Barbara?
In the recent award-winning film Nomadland, Frances McDormand plays Fern, a woman who decides to live in her van. Fern's niece says to her, "Mom says you're homeless." She responds, "I'm not homeless, I'm houseless." This is a passage from John Steinbeck's 1954 novel Cannery Row, where a group of homeless men in Monterey, California, appropriate an old farmhouse. The Palace Flop House was no sudden development. Indeed, when Mac and Hazel and Eddie and Huey and Jones moved into it, they looked upon it as little more than shelter from the wind and rain, as a place to go when everything else had closed, or when their welcome was thin and sere with overuse. Then the palace was only a long, bare room, lit dimly by 2 small windows, walled with unpainted wood, smelling strongly of fish meal. They had not loved it then, but Mac knew that some kind of organization was necessary, particularly among such a group of ravening individualists. With a piece of chalk, he drew 5 oblongs on the floor, each 7 feet long and 4 feet wide, and in each square he wrote a name. These were the simulated beds. Each man had property rights inviolable in his space. He could legally fight a man who encroached on his square. The rest of the room was property common to all. That was in the first days when Mac and the boys sat on the floor, played cards hunkered down, and slept on the hard boards. Perhaps, save for an accident of weather, they might have lived that way always. However, an unprecedented rainfall, which went on for over a month, changed all that. The boys grew tired, house-ridden, tired of squatting on the floor. Their eyes became outraged by the bare board walls. Because it sheltered them, the house grew dear to them, and it had the charm of never knowing the entrance of an outraged landlord, for Lee Chong never came near it. Then one afternoon, Huey came in with an army cot that had a torn canvas. He spent 2 hours sewing up the rip with fishing line. And that night, the others, lying on the floor in their squares, watched Huey ooze gracefully into his cot. They heard him sigh with abysmal comfort, and he was asleep and snoring before anyone else. The next day, Mac puffed up the hill carrying a rusty set of springs he had found on a scrap iron dump. The apathy was broken then. The boys outdid one another in beautifying the palace flophouse until after a few months it was, if anything, over-furnished. There were old carpets on the floor, chairs with and without seats. Mac had a wicker chaise longue painted bright red. There were tables, a grandfather clock without dial, face, or works. The walls were whitewashed, which made it almost light and airy. Pictures began to appear, mostly calendars showing improbably luscious blondes holding bottles of Coca-Cola. A bundle of gilded cattails stood in one corner, and a sheaf of peacock feathers was nailed to the wall beside the grandfather clock. They were some time in acquiring a stove, and when they did find what they wanted, a silver-scrolled monster with floriated warming ovens and a front like a nickel-plated tulip garden, they had trouble getting it. It took them 3 days to carry it to Cannery Row, a distance of 5 miles, and they camped beside it at night. But once installed in the palace flophouse, it was the glory and the hearth and the center. Its nickel flowers and foliage shone with cheery light. It was the gold tooth of the palace. Fired up, it warmed the big room. Its oven was wonderful, and you could fry an egg on its shiny black lids. With the great stove came pride, and with pride, the palace became home. Eddie planted morning glories to run over the door, and Hazel acquired some rather rare fuchsia bushes planted in 5-gallon cans, which made the entrance formal and a little cluttered. Mac and the boys loved the palace, and they even cleaned it a little sometimes. In their minds, they sneered at unsettled people who had no house to go to, and occasionally, in their pride, they brought a guest home for a day or two.
Thank you, Barbara. Now's the time to open up our hearts and our connection to the infinite abundance. So ushers, if you would please pass our plates, and then we'll have a prayer of abundance from Nancy Driver. ushers, if you'll just bring your... Oh, there you are.
So beautiful. Thank you. We just thank you for this expression of love, for this expression of gratitude for what we get to experience at this magnificent Althea Center. For this demonstrates what it means to us for what we value, what's important to us, what brings us joy in our lives. And from this place of knowingness, from this place of deep, deep thanksgiving, we just express ourselves with such depth of abundance and knowingness, and that feeling that Althea is such a beautiful community. Just this beautiful sanctuary is our home. And as we speak of homelessness this week, we can be so grateful for the home of Althea, the home of this place and this beautiful, beautiful group of people that we call Altheans. And from this place of gratitude, we thank you, Divine One. And so it is.
Thank you, Nancy. There are Sarma's going to pick up that phone if it keeps going on. She's our sergeant at arms, you know. There are other ways to support Althea. We've got Evergreen membership. We have the Dip Jar, which is in the back here. You can also set up an account with King Soopers and with smile.amazon. Since we kind of went long today, I'm going to forego announcements. They should be, aren't they on the back of the program? They are on the back of the program. And but I do want to mention two things. Today at 12:30, we are going to have our town hall. And so I hope you can all stay for that. Don't forget, lunch is coming up. We will be going over what the board has come up with to this date regarding the transition. It is a duplicate of the Zoom town hall that was about 10 days ago. And then secondly, our annual general meeting is going to be 8/8. So that's going to be easy to remember, August 8th. We also have an open position for a board member, so please see me or Susan or a board member or Sarma and let us know if you're interested in applying. So it's time for thanks to the staff, all of our volunteers. Thank you for our newcomers, all of you who came here. Yes. Oh, that's right. Oh yeah, I was coming to that. Yeah, phew. So thank you to Aaron and Daryl and Sarma and Susan and, oh my gosh, it sounds like I'm going to the Emerald City, doesn't it? But thank you for your presence here and your openness. Come on up, Reverend.
The one thing I want to say is a line from the Bible that I learned a long time ago. And don't ask me where in the Bible it is, but it's there, but for the grace of God, go I. Once in my life, I was in that position. I borrowed money from friends in California, so I didn't become homeless. So just join me in consciousness, the consciousness of the divine, of the sacred, the knowledge that each and every one of us is whole, perfect, and complete. And as we focus inside on the divine spark of light in each and every one of us, we know that we are all connected to life, to God, to Althea, and to all that is, to all that ever was and all that ever will be. And we know and accept that we are whole, perfect, and complete. And we go forward this day, blessed and multiplied by everything we have experienced here and heard, expanded our consciousness to embrace the people who are homeless. And we just know and accept that we will be able to help and be of service to mankind. And so it is. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. That was Reverend Michael Buckley. Thank you so much. And we have now a song with Daryl and accompaniment. Lean
Actually,
on
this
Me.
is a community song, so I'm going to ask all of you to join us. We're going to put actually, I need to be pulled down. Yeah, We're going to put the lyrics on the back wall instead of having them passed out in your programs. So, but it's a familiar song. And Catherine and Mimi are going to join me and help you guys on Lean on Me. And there's a place in this song that I do kind of an octave jump. You are welcome to stay in the lower octave to make it a little easier for you to sing. So just don't take my showing off to be an example. So. Yeah, please stand as you're able. Sometimes in our lives we all have pain, we all have sorrow, but if we are wise, we know that there's always tomorrow. Lean on me when you're not strong, and I'll be your friend. I'll help you carry on, for it won't be long till I'm gonna need somebody to lean on. Please swallow your pride. If I have faith, you need to borrow, for no one can feel those of your needs that you won't let show. You just call on me, brother, when you need a hand. We all need somebody to lean on. I just might have a problem that you'll understand. We all need somebody to lean on. Lean on me when you're not strong, and I'll be your friend. I'll help you carry on, for it won't be long till I'm gonna need somebody to lean on. You just call on me, brothers, when you need a hand. We all need somebody to lean on. I just might have a problem that you'll understand. We all need somebody to lean on. If there is a load you have to bear that you can't carry, I'm right up the road. I'll share your load if you just call me. Call me when you need a friend. Call me. I'm telling you to call me when you need a friend. Call me. Call me. Thank you so much. Thank you, Catherine. Thank you, Mimi. Thank you. And thank you, Jason.